The lesson that sticks most with me is they had a metaphor for sex where they took a couple of students and they had them with these clear cups of water, and they had them take a sip, swish it around in their mouths, spit it back out, and then they had these, cups of kind of gross water. And they, going down the line, they poured the water from one cup into the next, into the next, into the next. And this was a metaphor for, sex, where if you had sex, it was like you had all the dirty germs from everybody who had sex before you. And then at the end of the line, they had somebody with a clear cup of water. The lesson was, if you had to pick somebody, would you want to pick somebody with this clean, clear glass of water or with this dirty, gross glass of water? So it was very much about, I think, virginal purity and how no one will want you if you've had sex. The whole thing is just focused around just say no until you're married.
That is just one example of what is often referred to as shame-based sexual education, when adults use fear to scare young people into refraining from sex. Pastor Matt Chandler of the Village Church in Dallas spoke about the dangers of that type of rhetoric and explained his approach to teaching younger members of his congregation about sex.
Some people will try to play the fear card. I think it's the worst type of education imaginable to make people afraid of sex. Because then what ends up happening is they get married and you've got this whole thing, their whole life, where you're like, don't. Okay, now you're free. And man, that's a hard gear to shift, especially if we're saying, no, sex is good. Sex should be enjoyed. You should, as often as you desire, partake in this. In fact, even in the Song of Solomon, right, which is a really explicit book in the scriptures about how relationships work and how maybe to even view sex, the Lord says to this group of this man and this woman who are married, eat, drink your fill, you lovers. So God's not just about sex as procreation. There's a real sexual ethic that we believe in that's really a wonderful thing. And so I think when people start with fear and don't start with, no, God's got a really beautiful design for this. And it's a good thing. It's not bad in any way. So, man, I think I want to set it up by just going, hey, here's God's good design. Be careful, right? This is like fire. It belongs in a fireplace or it belongs in a fire pit. The psalmist would say, the boundaries have fallen from me in pleasant places. So he's certainly not, he's not oppressive or repressive when it comes to sex. He wants it celebrated and rejoiced in within the boundaries that he's placed for human flourishing. So that's how we're going to teach it, even to 7th graders.
You've been watching CBSN Originals. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the rest of the day's news. You're streaming CBSN, CBS News, always on.